He made a shot, and he came over here and he told me he's that guy. And I told him if he really that guy, he don't have to come over here and tell me nothing. He's a superstar. He's a superstar.
Marquis Kezo Brown Jr., born December 17th, 1999. I know a lot of you right now are probably wondering, who is Kezo Brown, and why is he featured in this new Prodigy series or on Stunted Growth at all? If you ask anyone in Chicago that question, they might ask you if you're okay. If you asked anyone that's followed his career back when he was just a freshman in high school and regarded as the next great point guard, not only from Simeon High and Chicago, but in the nation, they'll question your basketball knowledge. He became a YouTube sensation that had a charisma to him that instantly made you take to him and want to see him succeed. Early on, he was compared to John Wall for his size, already 6 foot in the 7th grade, and you could easily see the similarities. He was courted by all the top high schools in Chicago, but chose Simeon partly because of his admiration for former Simeon great Jabari Parker and arguably the greatest player to ever come from Chicago in Derrick Rose. He became the first freshman since Parker to play for Simeon under coach Robert Smith and didn't disappoint. He played well enough to acquire scholarship interests from Duke, Kansas, Illinois, Kentucky, and Chicago State. But then the story took a turn. For reasons I'll explain later, he didn't play a minute his highly anticipated sophomore year, which led to all the major schools moving on from recruiting him, causing him to have to start from square one once again. So now I ask the question. Up until now, we haven't discussed the results of what happens when prodigies garner extreme amounts of attention, which leads to expectations to live up to the hype, no matter how grandiose. Is it better for kids like Kezo Brown not to be given the attention they get so early in their development? On one hand, attention like such can push a player to a status where his college production can be mediocre and they still make the NBA. Or you can have a story like Marquis Kezo Brown. Let's talk about it. What stunted this once promising, advanced for his age prodigy's growth? It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Brown is a 6'2" point guard from Chicago, Illinois that blew up on YouTube for his ahead-of-his-class size and ability, with hints of aforementioned John Wall that built a following comparable to Allen Iverson in the city and on YouTube. His coaches called him a pure point guard with a natural ability to score as well, with his feel for the game and lefty stroke that could pull up from anywhere. With this combination, Duke and Kansas were excited for their chance to get what everyone was calling the next big thing out of a city being put on the map by former Chicago big thing Derrick Rose. He was this close to doing it, yet that far from meeting expectations that may have been too much. Stunt number 1, mental breakdown.
No games in Chicago, you feel? This is the daily life that I live, you feel? And the only way I quit basketball, man, because I fell out of love with it, man. I don't love it no more, but just pay attention, man. Like, I still love basketball, but I don't love it. Like, there's a lot of stuff that go on in basketball, you feel me? Show them what's going on right now, man, you feel me? These are streets, man. These are streets out here in Chicago, man, for real, for real. This for all my fans, man. I love y'all. Y'all keep y'all heads up and put in a lot of work, and y'all could be better than me, you feel me? That's for y'all, man. I love y'all, you feel me? Just keep y'all heads up. Still show my page love. I'ma still show y'all love, man. This is Kezo speaking, you know? HMG, man, you know?
The reason I asked the question earlier, if so much attention and expectation was good for a young kid, is because for the first time in this series, we get to talk about one of the possible outcomes of being a prodigy. Although one of the rare cases, it can happen and is something all of you young hoopers need to realize or at least hear about. As his sophomore high school year rolled around, news reporters, magazines, internet recruiting sites all had one player from Chicago's name written down as a story you don't want to miss. Some may even have showed up to Simeon's first regular season game, only to not see Kezo Brown anywhere in the building. He didn't play at all that year as he was sidelined and dealing with a mental breakdown, which many think was because of all the pressure heaped on his shoulders. After researching and reviewing everything Kezo Brown, a part of me feels as though in his heart, Kezo never saw basketball as the be-all end-all to life for him, while everyone around him did. Although Chicago is a big city, it's also small enough where you hear the rumbling surrounding your name, and with what Derrick Rose did and was doing, a kid that shows some promise can hear that pretty loudly. From his family that pushed him toward a basketball dream, to friends, media, and coaches, Kezo really didn't have the time to be what I think he wanted to be, which was just a kid, and happy. He said in an interview when asked what were his life and basketball goals, to which he first replied, "I just want to make myself happy." He proceeded to say, and also play in the NBA, but that came off as secondary and a default to expected answer from him.
My dream is to make me happy. Make me happy. Just make me happy, and the other dream is to make it to the NBA. If that don't happen, I just still want to make myself happy.
The interviewer shook his head, acknowledging receiving the answer he wanted, and moved on. Me, knowing the game, more so players, it felt as though he wanted to make everyone around him happy by being what they wanted him to, over what was in his heart, happiness, acquiring it. But when you're in position to be your family's savior and the city's next hope, you can feel burdened by everything outside of what fuels you inward. He would return for his junior season and started to look like Kezo Brown of old, although by this time his peers had caught up to him physically, and some even passing him in skills and high-level Division I recruiting. Because of an ankle injury, he missed a large portion of that year as well, watching guys like Simeon mate Talon Horton-Tucker and rival Ayo Dosunmu become the new faces of a city that was once his to own. Stunt number 2, being shot 5 times. The mental troubles were not over. He wound up missing out on his senior year at Simeon as well due to mental health concerns and began posting videos to social media with suggestions of being gang-related and having a hard time choosing basketball over the streets. He even said in the video that he fell out of love with basketball and that he still loved it but didn't love it at the same time, to which I understand. His father, Marquis Brown Sr., responded by saying that Kezo wasn't in a gang at all, and in fact he and Kezo's mom didn't even allow him to be outside much. That somewhere in his head he believed he was a gang member that had to watch his back in the streets and like life was actually rough for him. His family admitted him into a psychiatric hospital to receive help, which led to a citywide challenge called the Kezo Brown Challenge, encouraging him to get right mentally and return to the sport everyone loved him for. After all his scholarship offers fell through, he thought about returning to high school, but decided to turn pro in LeVar Ball's JBA League for the Chicago Ballers. Once again, he was on stage and didn't disappoint. Scoring 46 out the gate, he received the first ever offer to play overseas for a JBA player. He was scheduled to go to France, but for whatever reason, that fell through and he accepted an offer to play in China for a few months. Upon his return from China, while at a store in Chicago 2019, he reportedly bumped into another individual who left for a minute, only to return with a car full of friends and shot Kezo 5 times while leaving the store. He was hit 3 times in the chest, once in the hip, and another time in the thigh. By all accounts, Kezo should have died that March night, but miraculously survived. His father purchased an ABA team to give Kezo a chance to play again shortly after, and by November 2019, he was back on the floor and scored 31 points in his ABA debut. By this time, guys like Simeon made Talon Horton Tucker was in the NBA playing toward becoming the youngest player in history to win a championship, and Ayo Dosunmu was leading his Illinois team in scoring and will most likely be a first-round pick this June. Somewhere, Kezo should have been, right there alongside them both. Stunt number 3, the game moving on. Like those high-level college teams recruiting him that moved on when he struggled mentally, the NBA and having the opportunity to play there can as well. There's a tight window for prospects that closes even tighter the further you drift away for whatever reason, and Kezo Brown, for these reasons, and maybe even deeper-rooted ones, couldn't have gotten any further. John Wall comparisons early to mental institutions to being shot nearly to death all but assured the NBA route might be a thing of the past and surprising to most that knew about him. Will Kezo Brown's growth only result in an urban myth? He's currently playing for his father's ABA team in hopes of getting a G League tryout one day and continuing his playing career while he's still young. All in all, Kezo Brown's story will go down as one of the more hard but teachable lessons in history of what can happen when you don't allow these kids to just be kids for as long as they can, or at least until they're physically and mentally ready to be vultured on and forced to live up to certain expectations. Also, that taking care of your mental health and making sure your kids' mental health is secure before you start thinking about what them making it to the NBA could mean for you. Seems like a strong individual and a naturally gifted basketball player. Should he turn it all around and who knows, make it to the NBA one day, there wouldn't be a better story. Salute to this guy, man. I got a lot of respect for him, a lot of respect for his story, and I hope he's doing well. But for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth, and I'm out. Make sure you follow me on twitch.tv/stuntedgrowthgaming if you want extra free content like me breaking down the day's highlights, moves, drafts, and past players or games upon your request. Let's chat and talk live, as it's easier to answer your questions than a place like Instagram where your messages tend to get lost. Follow me there, it's free and we can connect instantly. Join the Discord as well to chat in-game. I'll leave links to everything below.